Hey everyone, welcome back to Weatherington. We get a lot of questions here at Weatherington about the perfect school list. How many schools should we apply to? Is there too much? Is there too little? And today we're going to address some of these different elements about creating the perfect school list and what it takes to put one together. So let's start with why we want to create a school list. The reason's real simple. It's one thing to have ideas of schools you want to apply in your mind, but actually putting it down to paper, putting it in a list that you can visualize and see, look at the different requirements side by side, will give you a better understanding of exactly what your chances of getting admitted to a particular university might be. So for example, when putting together a school list, you might want to include things like the location. Is this location a place that I can see myself studying? Look at maybe the average test scores. Do I fall within that average range? Am I on the higher end or am I on the lower end? Once we look at all of these different factors side by side with one another, we can get a better understanding of exactly where we fall compared to the other applicants who are also going to be applying and compared to the applicants who have already been admitted to that university in previous years. Generally speaking, we have three types of schools that we can categorize our options into. The first being a dream school. The dream school is just what it sounds. It is your top choice. This is the school where you've always dreamt about going. It is also known as a reach school. Maybe your grades are a little bit lower than the average there. Maybe the cost is a little bit higher. A dream school is your top choice school or your top choices for when putting together a list. The second type is a fit school. Now we call it a fit school because we see when looking at the rest of the list, you're right in line with all the other applicants that are applying. Okay, so this means your grades fall within the average, your test scores fall within the average, and the location as well as the finances are right within your means. And so what this means is we call it a fit school because it fits with not just your profile, but also your financial needs. And lastly, there's what we call a safety school. Now, a safety school is a school that we already know that you have a fairly high chance of being admitted. And so again, coming back to our first step of putting the list together, we can see your grades are much higher than the average grades of this university. Your test scores are much higher than the average test scores of this university. You know that the location is right where you want to be. And so these are elements that we would consider a safety school, a school that you have a high probability of being admitted into. Now, generally when putting together a school list, we want to have a balance between these three different types of schools. You don't want to overload on reach schools because there's a high chance you're going to be rejected from all of those reach schools. You don't want to make a list that has only your reach schools. Conversely, you don't want to make a list purely of your safety schools because you might find yourself not challenged. Maybe your real desire is something else. So now let's talk about how many schools you should apply to. Let's say you're a student who knows very clearly the program they want to study and where they want to study. You might be someone who knows exactly what your list is already. And so you have a list of maybe 3 to 5 schools. That's perfectly fine. We don't want to say you apply only to one school because your chances of being admitted might not be so high. And so it's important to have a strategy when deciding which schools to apply to. So let's say you want to apply to 5 schools. We might say you should have 1 reach school, your top choice, maybe 2 fit schools, and 2 safety schools to kind of balance out your school list. If you're between 3 and 5, and as long as those schools are within your range, then you should be just fine. Now let's say you're a student who has a little bit broader interest and you want to apply to a few more schools because you're not exactly sure where might be a good fit for you or what programs you might want to study. So you decide you want to apply to 10 schools, let's say. In this case, we might have maybe 1 or 2 reach schools on that list. We might have 3 or 4 fit schools on that list, and another 3 or 4 safety schools just to round out the list. This is also perfectly fine. The one thing to remember when we're applying to these schools is that each application costs money. And so we can't just apply to a million schools. You could, theoretically, if you have the resources to do that and the time to actually complete those applications. But there's going to be an application fee for each university that you apply to, so it's good to be a little bit more selective when deciding your school list. So if you find yourself applying to 3 to 5 universities when it's very clear what you want to do and the direction you want to go, or maybe you find yourself in the 10 applications range, both of those are perfectly fine. Once you start getting into the 15 to 20 application range, you might want to start reconsidering, just because you'll get to a point where you have to manage all of these applications. You have to remember there's prices associated with those applications, and you start having what's called a diminishing return, where you're starting to sink a lot of time across all these applications, so you don't actually have much time to focus and dedicate your time to the applications that really matter to you. So there you have it. I hope you found this helpful in case you were someone who might have been struggling with deciding how many universities they should apply to. If you have any questions or have any thoughts or comments for me, feel free to leave it in the comment section below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and stay tuned for more Zuhab Tang content coming here soon. Bye-bye.